go, baby. Welcome in. It is a loaded, jam-packed edition of East Coast Bias for your friends on the Ringer Gambling Show. Of course, right here on FanDuel TV, the triple threat has a lot to unpack on the eve or the day of, whatever you want to call it. Game 1, NBA Finals. We will get you set for the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I welcome in Raheem the Dream Palmer, live from Las Vegas. I welcome in the world-famous House from D.C., Joe House, doing his thing, middle part of your screen, and, of course, J.J. Johnson-Stremski in New York City. But, gentlemen, before we get to the NBA Finals, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. I'm not in a good mood, and I haven't been in a good mood for the better part of 24 to 48 hours. The New York Knicks, after going to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years, the New York Knicks, off of back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since Pat Riley in the early to mid-1990s, right? Led by Tom Thibodeau. Well, after losing in Game 6 to the Indiana Pacers, the Knicks have made a coaching change. Boys, I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I understand the critiques. I understand the criticisms of Tom Thibodeau. Some of them are fair. Some of them, to me, are just totally outlandish. The bottom line is this, House. This is a coach who, to me, earned another year with this group. I think it's ridiculously unfair what Leon Rose, Worldwide West, James Dolan, whoever it might be, is doing and making a coaching change. And, House, they better be right. Because if they're not in the NBA Finals next year, and if they're not winning an NBA championship, they're going to look like a bunch of horses for making this move. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. So there you have
it. Well, we understand your position. I will say this. The reason that the Knicks are where they are at this moment, which is to say in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, is not because of Tom Thibodeau. My opinion is that they are there because of the combination of Leon Rose and Worldwide West and what they were able to bring together through the combination of their own NBA experience, the connections they have, the relationships they had, the team building that they were able to pull off with, you know, a notoriously intractable owner in the form of James Dolan. They convinced that man to make the Knicks good again. Tom Thibodeau didn't do that. Tom Thibodeau did what he's supposed to do, which is coach those boys up. And I think he did a great job. And I would have been fine, JJ, if they had made the decision to return him to lead this team next season. But they, inside that building, get to have their thumb on the pulse of the players and the relationships and the decision-making. And to me, I give those two guys, Leon Rose and Worldwide West, the benefit of the doubt about how far Tom Thibodeau could take them. They clearly reached the conclusion that it was this Eastern Conference Finals ceiling, and so they have made the decision that the finals is where they want to be, and Thibodeau is not the man for it, Dream.
House is 100% correct. At the end of the day, this front office has been the best front office New York has had since the early 90s. They've earned the benefit of the doubt to be able to make this move. And if you ask me, this is Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr all over again. Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors, he built that culture and then he got fired. Well, they brought in a better coach. And if you ask me, Tom Thibodeau is a little outdated because if you watch the postseason, if you watch the process of their offense, it was basically Brunson ball. They allowed him to play heliocentric offense, and the rest of the guys really couldn't get going for large stretches of a time. You said it yourself. Where's Mikal Bridges for large stretches of the postseason? Where was Karl Anthony Towns for large stretches of this postseason until, he won that game against the Indiana Pacers, game 3? At some point in time, you need a modern offense. And then you look at Tom Thibodeau. He waited until the New York Knicks were down 0-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals to start experimenting and playing his bench. At the end of the day, it's your job as a coach to get the best out of your players, not just one player, but everybody. And it's your job as a coach to be able to, have this team be able to perform. And if you ask me, I don't think Tom Thibodeau did that. I felt like Tom Thibodeau, he built a nice culture, but ultimately the Knicks got as far as they could with him. And then honestly, I felt like this playoff run was a little bit fluky. They probably could have lost to the Detroit Pistons. I mean, you look at that series, if they make that call for Tim Hardaway to go to the line for 3 shots, they might have lost that series. And then they were down 20 points in multiple games against the Boston Celtics, and they won all of those games. So I just think this run was really, really fluky. A lot of people are going to say if they had one game won, well, maybe they go to the finals, but they pulled off a fluky game 3. So I think it evened out. So I think the New York Knicks have made the right decision.
Okay, Raheem, I got a couple of pushbacks. I understand your point on modern offense. How much of that is Jalen Brunson, who, oh, by the way, his daddy is still going to be on the staff next year. So no matter who they go and bring in to be the next head coach of the team, you know it, I know it, House knows it. Rick Brunson will be a part of the staff. All of a sudden now, a new head coach is going to tell Jalen Brunson, you're moving the ball. I'm not so sure about that. Jalen Brunson, a lot of the time, is going to do Jalen Brunson things. And listen, a lot of them are great. Like, don't get me wrong, the end of these games, clutch player of the year, like, I understand how brilliant a player he can be, but I have an issue when Jalen Brunson is the guy, hey, the ball was moving fine when he was not in the games, right? Like, we watched him in the month of March when he was, hurt with the ankle injury. They were moving the ball A-okay with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. And look, I love Jalen Brunson. This is not me trying to spit on Jalen Brunson, but that's kind of the pushback I have with, they're going to have a whole totally new offensive system and new offensive set, number one. Number two, they went to the conference finals. Like, as far as fluke is concerned, they got there, right? Like, there's no what ifs in sports. They got there. Did they win those games at the end? Like, to me, there's something to be said for the way you can finish a game. I don't think that's fluky, dude. They sealed games in both of those series. And look, Thibodeau has never coached Michael Jordan. He's never coached LeBron James. He's never coached Steph Curry. Derrick Rose was this guy and he blew out his knee. Happens. Terrible luck. Guess what? Chicago, since Tom Thibodeau left, has been an absolute embarrassment as a franchise, right? Where have they been since Tom Thibodeau left the program in 2014? Awful. And final thought on this, Raheem. Steve Kerr. I hope and pray that the Knicks have their version of Steve Kerr, that it is going to be Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, that it is going to be Buck Showalter to Joe Torre. Baseball fans know where I'm going with that. That it is Rick Carlisle in Detroit to Larry Brown. Raheem, it damn well better not be Tom Thibodeau to Fred Hoiberg, okay? And unless you tell me now that it's going to be a totally different team, different core, I don't see how Johnny Bryant or Frank Vogel or Mike Budenholzer, I can go on and on because Jay Wright ain't taking a job. He likes golf too much and he likes the beach too much, so he's not leaving that. Sorry, hate to break it to Knicks fans. Unless you tell me, Raheem, how they can solve the riddle of Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson playing defense, I don't see the Knicks doing better than what they did last year. And for what it's worth, Raheem, if they don't get to the NBA Finals next year, I'm killing whoever the coach is. Sorry, that's the way it is.
I mean, who's to say the core is going to be the same? We're expecting a ton of trades this offseason. So I just think this Knicks organization with Leon Rose and Worldwide West, they've earned the benefit of the doubt. I mean, you guys truly have not had a better front office in 30 years.
I agree with that. And you know what, Raheem? That's a fair point. I'm a Leon guy. Now, the question in New York House has been, who made this decision? Was it Leon Rose, who, remember, is Tom Thibodeau's agent? A lot of loyalty there. Was it Worldwide West, who apparently was maybe chirping? Was it James Dolan?
Was it Karl Anthony Towns? This is the second time Karl Anthony Towns has played for Thibs and he got fired. Maybe it was Cat.
Who's to say? You just said it. Is Towns on his team next year? I mean, I don't know how they're trading him for what it's worth, but there's a lot of what ifs here, House, you know?
I guess my answer to who did it is who cares? It doesn't matter. Either you believe in Leon and Wes or not. That's it. To me, and they've earned the benefit of the doubt. So I think that those guys know what's going on inside that building. Those guys know which players are responding to what buttons Tibbs was trying to press over the course of the season. You didn't even mention Mikal Bridges. We still haven't seen the version of Mikal Bridges that made them trade 5 first-round draft picks. Somebody's got to come to this situation and unleash Mikal Bridges. But to the observation around what the core, who knows? You're absolutely right. There's to me, just as reasonable possibility that this team goes through another sizable change in terms of personnel. They're not afraid. Look at what they did. It was this time last year, Mikal Bridges wasn't on the team and Karl Anthony Towns wasn't on the team. So anything is possible with this group, but I think you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I am.
When an organization makes a move like this, I mean, you go back to the 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland Cavaliers were first in their conference. They were 30-11, and they fired David Blatt. And a lot of people said, oh, this is not fair. This is not fair. They brought in Tyronn Lue and won the championship. So when an organization this good makes that move, I think it says a lot.
You better be right, though. You better be right. Hey, they went from David Blatt to Tyronn Lue. They won a championship. The best player on the team basically came out over the weekend and gave you a very impassioned plea for why Tom Thibodeau should be back as head coach. And House, that's why, final thought on this before we get to the NBA Finals. I understand there are plenty of examples of first-year, first-time head coaches having success. We've seen it, right? Like, there are examples of it. Steve Kerr is a great one. Steve Kerr also was a GM and was around the league forever. Do you think the Knicks, number one, made this move having one specific individual in mind? Because my thought is yes. I don't think you make that move if that's not the case. Number two, in New York City, with the expectations, with the magnitude of this job, how can they give a first-time head coach the reins of this team with the expectations?
Here's the thing. Those boys swim in waters that we can't imagine. Those guys are in a universe. I'm talking about Wes and Rose. They have an idea of who they want for head coach. And I think that there is, a situation here that's brewing where they'll just let it sort of play out over time. But they're moving chess pieces in a way that we can't fathom. And I think it's perfectly fair to go ahead and get all of this out right now. Go ahead and air out the Tibbs support. He deserves it, and he'll get another job in the NBA. But I think that they know exactly who they want. I think they have an idea of personnel-wise what they're going to try and pull off this summer, and it's a combination of that head coach plus that personnel that puts them into the conversation for NBA Finals, because they have made it apparent beyond a doubt that they're trying to get to the NBA Finals next year.
And they better. Listen, you don't make a move like this. Sorry. This is not a team that's getting bounced in the first round where it's like, yeah, there's a lot more they can achieve. They made it to the conference finals. So in order to make a move like this and validate it and say, hey, guess what? It was a success. It means you're in the NBA Finals. It means you're winning championships. That's the expectation. Leon Rose, Worldwide West, great job in the front office. The boys are trying to get me to trust you. And I have. Listen, I've been a firm-fledged, full-fledged believer. I've trusted them. They've made great moves. Raheem, they better be right about this one because I don't like it.
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think this Knicks run is more like the Pacers run last year where they'll probably be back? Or is this a Atlanta Hawks, Portland Trailblazers type run?
I can't put them in that subject because they've been in the playoffs now, 3 consecutive years? They're not a one-year fluke, right? Like Atlanta Atlanta was the COVID year. So, you almost could, to me, throw that out.
How about Portland? Because Portland was in the postseason every year.
Portland won around, felt like I'd have to go through those Dame Lillard teams. The conference finals was their peak. You're right. It was their peak, and they were the difference was they were in the Western Conference with an all-time great team, and they had absolutely no chance of getting to the finals. The reason why I think it's more likely to be like Indiana House, look at the Eastern Conference. There's opportunity, and there still will be opportunity no matter what they end up doing with Jalen Brunson and the pieces they have around Jalen Brunson. They just better not have somebody who's in over their head. That's all.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll have a chance to bet on all of this once we figure out who the hell is on the team and who's coaching the team. I'm looking very forward to the opening markets for the season over-unders and wins. And, under for 53.5 the Knicks this past year was very profitable. It was a very good opportunity.
We did get a live over. Didn't we get a live over on the Knicks, though? Or was that the year before? That might have been a year before. I can't even keep track, House. We've made so many bets over the last couple of years. They kind of all blend together at this point. And House, if you want to will Eric Spoelstra like you did in your group chat, please. I don't know what the compensation would be. I'm still waiting for revenge on Pat Riley and the fax machine. I'd be more than happy to get Spo. And I know he likes his tan and his South Beach lifestyle and his Hall of Fame resume. New York City, it's a beautiful place to be, man. Come on.
There's lots to say. There's lots to commend. Going to New York and winning over the city of dreams, that is the apex, baby.
Well, how so you do that? You want me to get over Tom Thibodeau? That'll get me over Tom Thibodeau real fast. So just, Johnny Bryant, with all due respect, not exactly moving the needle the way Eric Spoelstra would be moving the needle. All right, we got a lot more coming your way, as you can tell. I'm getting a little heated. I'm still angry. I'm still in shock after what happened with Tibbs. And I hate to overstage the main event, but we have the NBA Finals to get to. It's game one. It's the Indiana Pacers going into Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder. Rust, we'll weigh in on that. Game, series, all sorts of stuff coming your way right here on East Coast Bias. Welcome back. Let's get into game one. Let's get into this series. Indiana, fresh off their victory over Tom Thibodeau's New York Knicks. Oklahoma City, the last time we saw them was over a week ago, dismantling the Minnesota Timberwolves in ho-hum 5-game fashion. And listen, Raheem, when you look at the series price, it's hefty. You look around, you talk to anybody in the quote-unquote know. I'm talking basketball insiders. I'm talking about people who bet. I'm talking about your fans that you might see on the street having a cold one at your local establishment. It is almost impossible. In fact, it is impossible, Raheem, for me to find anyone. I've talked to a lot of people, as you know. I'm in a lot of different circles. Jim, have you heard anyone make the case that they like the Pacers to win this series? I can't find a soul.
I haven't heard anybody say that. When I look at my model, I have two sets of numbers. I have a model for post All-Star break numbers, and I have a model for the full season. I'm going to use post All-Star break numbers just because Indiana's played so much better over the second half of the year. I have the Oklahoma City Thunder at an 88% chance of winning this series. And when I look at full season numbers, I have it 94. I mean, you're talking about an Oklahoma City Thunder team that has the best point differential in NBA history. And, they have home court advantage. And we talked about Oklahoma City at home, 8-1 at home. They're winning by an average of 29 points per game. I mean, they've won games by 51, 19, 43, 7, 32, 36, 15, and 30. And they were up, 9, 10 points against Denver in the one game they lost. So, I mean, it's very difficult to imagine the Indiana Pacers winning this series, given Oklahoma City's defense and their prowess at home.
Yeah, I agree. The only way, and I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want this to happen. The only way that the Pacers have a chance to me is if there's an injury and a significant injury on the OKC side. And I mean, I'm not going to buy an injury ticket on the Pacers. I don't believe in that. It's bad karma. The numbers don't lie. The reason that the Oklahoma City Thunder are sitting on 80 wins is because they've built a dominant defense, a once in a generation kind of defense. We're having to go back in the history books of the NBA. The Podfather himself is going to his own book, the book of basketball, and trying to thumb through and find where are these defenses. And you have to look at, all the way back to those Detroit teams to find a defense like this. And in the modern era, their ability to put pressure that is 94-foot pressure on the guards of the opposing team and what that turns into for Oklahoma City, that's what Dream's model reflects. That's what it spits out when you try and size up what this team is all about. And so there is always in the modern NBA the possibility of 3-point variance. And Dream on our podcast on Monday made the great observation that the Pacers shoot the three very well. That's how they can stay competitive in this series. They have to keep up with Oklahoma City in terms of scoring, and they have to first force Oklahoma City into half-court offense. So that 3-point variance might get you to a couple of wins if you want to wager in that direction. But I don't think that they have 4 games worth of 3-point shooting variance in them, JJ.
Totally get it. Look, Oklahoma City has been an incredible defensive team. And what makes it even more incredible, fellas, is the era in which they play. As you mentioned, that great Detroit team that stunned the Lakers in the 2004 finals. The style in which you could play in 2004 is clearly drastically different than what you're playing now in 2025, where, the hand checking and just the rules favoring offensive basketball, which makes Oklahoma City's defense that much more formidable, that much more impressive. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys. I'm sad the basketball season's coming to a close. And maybe this is my heart talking. Maybe it's my head talking. Maybe it's just me having PTSD from watching this team beat my team over a 6-game series. I don't think Indiana can win a series. I'm with you on that, House. They're not going to have the same success in torching the pick and roll like they did against the New York Knicks, exploiting terrible defenders like they did with the New York Knicks. And Oklahoma City is a very deep, well-balanced basketball team. But I want to see a lot of basketball. I want to see multiple games in this series. And I'm eyeing a bet on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Indiana Pacers plus 2.5 games at plus money at plus 106. The way I view this bet, House, Indiana has to win multiple games at home, or they have to get one and maybe get a miracle game in OKC. What scares you is the OKC games have been so just overwhelming. It's been an avalanche in every single one of these home OKC type of games. That's where the Pacers, I think, have problems here because, yes, OKC hasn't covered on the road and they've had their struggles, whether it's Denver, the Minnesota games were tight. They got blown out in game 3. But as a whole here, OKC, a wagon in that building. What's the case for Indiana, other than 3-point variance, to go and make this a series plus 2.5 games?
You're asking me? There is no other case. They have to shoot the lights out. They have to shoot 60%, over 50% over the course of the series and have a couple games up in that 60% range. And they need it from 4 or 5 guys. There is no other case. They don't have the size. There's no size advantage they can leverage into. They're not going to force Oklahoma City and gain a turnover advantage. They're not going to get the ball out of SGA's hands. They can try. I don't think they're going to be successful at that. And they're not going to end up with a significant enough offensive rebounding advantage. Like none of the buttons that you would want to push to try and even it out. It's just 3-point shooting dream, in my humble opinion.
I think there's another case. So we talk a lot about Oklahoma City. They force turnovers. We look at Oklahoma City on defense. What are they? They're first in turnover rate. They're turning teams over 18% of the time in the postseason. Well, the Indiana Pacers don't turn the ball over. And if they don't turn the ball over, I think this Oklahoma City Thunder offense could look a little bit mortal. And that's all. I mean, that's a big edge right there. If you don't beat yourself and they have to beat you, I think that's a pretty big edge. And I don't want to make it just 3-point variance. When you look at Oklahoma City Thunder's defense, they funnel guys to the 3-point line. They want to block off the paint and say, look, shoot your 3-pointers. So Indiana's going to get a ton of open looks. I mean, Oklahoma City is 16th amongst postseason teams, allowing 40% of opponent shots to come from behind the arc. Well, if Indiana, they're shooting 41% from 3, I mean, that puts them in a favorable position. So if you don't turn the ball over, if you shoot well, I think they can find their way towards making this series competitive. And, I think one of the issues that Indiana is going to have is that, they give up a ton of free throws. You look at out of all the postseason teams and all the play-in teams, they're 18th in free throw rate. They're allowing 28 free throws a game. And we talk about SGA being a foul merchant. I think that puts them in, a troublesome spot. But I do think they have the better coach as well. I think Rick Carlisle.
I was going to say, Raheem, excellent point. No knock on Mark Dagnall. I think he's done a wonderful job in OKC. House, Carlisle's a Hall of Famer. Saw Detroit, Indiana stint won a title in Dallas, now has reinvented himself as a head coach. Raheem hit on, I think, another way Indiana can make this a series. Carlisle just coaching his ass off. He could do it.
He can. I mean, he's going to have to cope with, at the end of the day, he's got a personnel challenge. And Oklahoma City, in my opinion, is very well suited to take away the things that might otherwise give Indiana an advantage. I mean, the problem on the free throw point, the Pacers don't go to the free throw line. Who gets free throws for the Pacers? I mean, this is the problem, right? Miles Turner is a 3-point shooting big man. So you don't get offensive rebounds that might otherwise tilt the ability of Oklahoma City to get out on transition and get those buckets that they want. It's just a matchup kind of challenge for me. But for sure, Carlisle will be in his bag. And I have nothing but immense respect for what he's done and where this team is on back-to-back trips, Eastern Conference Finals and now the NBA Finals. For sure, you got to tip the cap to Carlisle. But at the end of the day, it's the bodies on the floor. And it's just, to me, a tough matchup for the Pacers.
Gut Raheem, over under 5.5 games in this series. Because I think the prevailing thought amongst most people is going to be that OKC wins this in a gentleman's sweep. I think A lot of people are going to expect them to win game 1 and game 2 at home. We will get to game 1, by the way, momentarily. Then you want to tell me Indiana gets 1 in their building, and then OKC says sayonara in 5. I would expect OKC in 5 is like the conventional result. I'll ask you, more likely a sweep, more likely we see a 6th or 7th game.
I'm not showing an edge on either. If you're looking at over 5.5 games plus 106, under 5.5 games minus 130, I'm not showing an edge on either. But this is my gut feeling on this series. And I know it sounds crazy. I know it's going to sound crazy.
No, I like a gut feeling every now and again, Raheem. That's what we're here for.
I think Oklahoma City wins this in 5 or Indiana wins it in 7. I think if this series goes
in 7, wow, Indiana in a 7th game on the road. Interesting.
I think if this series goes on longer, Indiana's going to win. I think coaching and the experience of Pascal Siakam, and I think the 3-point shooting is going to wear out. And I think if it's a short series, Oklahoma City wins it. Like that's just my gut feeling. I think we're going to find out right away in the first 2 games if Indiana can hang, because I think Indiana has to win one of the first 2 games in order to win this series. If they don't, this series is over. Like that's just my personal opinion. So I think Oklahoma City wins it in 5 or Indiana in 7. I just don't see any other way. I'm sorry.
Well, the way to do that then is to go ahead and have a little bit of taste on Indiana win the series at plus 530, just in case something wacky happens. But then to go into the FanDuel Sportsbook and get the Pacers. They're available right now. Indiana Pacers, 4 games to 3 is plus 1,200. That's 12-1 on FanDuel. Go ahead and get a little taste on that. Those are a couple ways to kind of protect, outcomes here for a very, very heavy favorite.
I'm just, what it is I'm struggling with? I need to see in the first couple of games if Oklahoma City is going to force Indiana to turn it over. Because I think if they're turning Indiana over, they don't have a shot. But if Indiana is, can hang with them, not turn the ball over, I think, and they can still win in the first 2 games, I think they have a shot.
So it seems like, Raheem, my plus 2.5 for the Pacers would get an endorsement from you. That's just my gut feel.
Yeah, my gut feels I think they win 2 games.
House, how do you see the series shaking out?
4 games to 1. I'm square. Yeah, I'm square. I have no issue whatsoever with the idea of Indy, handling their business on one of the home games and shooting lights out. And they do have, part of the case, if you wanted to make the Indiana case, that makes them different. The Pacers are different from other teams that Oklahoma City has confronted thus far in the playoffs. They have multiple guys that you might feel comfortable with handling the ball. So if they are successful, Oklahoma City, in taking the ball out of Halliburton's hands, Nembhard has his moments. He had a game with 13 assists. He's had double-digit assists a couple of different times in these playoffs. Nesmith, you could have in that role a little bit, maybe even, Mathurin showed something, a couple games there at the end against the Knicks. They have guys that you might trust with some of that ball handling role in the way that other teams that Oklahoma City confronted in these playoffs didn't have those horses.
Any interest, House, in playing a sweep?
No.
So you do not smell a sweep? You're
not getting rewarded for it. It's plus 290 right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That price doesn't give you enough reward, enough incentive from my perspective.
Boys, let's get to game 1 when we come back, because the Oklahoma City Thunder have been juggernauts in their home building. The Indiana Pacers have been very good in this postseason in setting a tone. We've seen them now do it on the road against Cleveland in stunning fashion against the Knicks. They're not nearly as rested as the Oklahoma City Thunder. Is that advantage, disadvantage? We'll dive into all the game 1 stuff. We still have some props for this series we got to give out. East Coast Bias Boys, just getting warmed up. We're coming right back. All right, boys, let's break down this game 1. Indiana is a 9.5-point underdog on the FanDuel Sportsbook site. You can find them if you want to have some fun and you think Indiana can steal game 1. They're at plus 330 to win the game. The total is at 230.5. House, we talked about this going into game 5 of the Western Conference Final. I laid it. I didn't think twice. It was one of those spots I said, hey, Oklahoma City has been unreal in these home games. They're not going to mess around. It was one of the easiest wins you're going to have in the postseason. Now, I've had plenty of devastating losses along the way, so it does tend to even itself out. That said, Indiana's been really good in these spots. They come in, they play their pace, they play their style. They don't seem to be intimidated by playing on the road. Cleveland series, Knicks series, down 14. We know what happened at the end of that game. Is there any concern with the Thunder? They haven't played basketball in a game in 8 days. Like, that's a long time. You're in your groove. You're rocking and rolling throughout the postseason. Boom, they throw an 8-day layoff at you. Should I be worried about that with OKC?
I don't think so. They're young. I don't think it matters. There isn't a rust element from my point of view. I think that they'll handle it just fine. They get to go against each other in practices in the run up to this, and they're trying to not, do anything that's going to hurt them. But I think going against each other is just as good as getting prepared for the Indiana Pacers and the pace that the Pacers are going to show up with. This is the thing I think that caught maybe the Knicks and Cleveland a little bit flat. They were not prepared for the pace that the Pacers, showed up with. And the Pacers' ability to execute in fourth quarters throughout this entire playoff run has been the thing that really distinguishes them. I'm not worried about Oklahoma City's ability to handle that. And if they get a lead, to protect that lead, to sit on top of that lead. They have not at home been in a place where they're really, relinquishing, which is why their performance against the spread at home has been so outstanding.
When you look historically, home teams in the NBA Finals in Game 1, they're 16-3 against the spread, and they're winning by almost 5 points per game. And if you look at favorites over 5 points, you're looking at 12-0 against the spread, and they're winning by almost 14 points a game. So, historically, this rest has actually been great for home teams in the NBA Finals. But I think House, he said the right thing. The Pacers, they've been catching teams off guard with their pace, and especially in Game 1. And you look at the Pacers, and I think that's the tough thing for me for this series. It almost feels like strength versus strength. We talk about Oklahoma City at home, but Indiana is 6-2 straight up and against the spread on the road. So I think you're seeing a lot of strength versus strength in this series. So, it's going to be a tough one.
Raheem, is there any inkling to perhaps get involved with the Pacers for the first half? You go back to what happened in the Minnesota series. Minnesota got off to a good start in that Game 1. Now, OKC was coming off of Game 7, so I know it's a different set of circumstances, obviously. But they got off to a tough start. Minnesota had a halftime lead, and then boom, OKC snapped their fingers. They went on one of their crazy runs. They won. They covered. Took care of business. I'm starting to think that maybe the way I should play this is take the Indiana Pacers to come out and be rocking and rolling in the first half of this game, and maybe OKC adjusts and they're ready for it and they blow their doors off in the second half. What do we think?
I actually want the opposite. I want a full game of Indiana's pace before. I don't want the first half at all. I was trying to save it for best bets, but I'm taking Indiana plus 9.5 in Game 1. I think they catch them off guard with their pace. I just think, the market is so high on Oklahoma City. At some point, this is a market. And at some point in time, I think there's probably going to be value on Indiana. So I'm snatching it for Game 1. I think this is their best shot to have a chance of winning the series. So I'm taking Indiana plus 9.5.
Wow. Raheem, with the way you prefaced all of the info involving home teams, Game 1, NBA Finals, I was like, oh, he's going to go and drop it on OKC. I know I'm spoiling it too. I like the Pacers as well in Game 1. I know this sounds crazy. It does, because I know what Oklahoma City has been in these home games. I'm a little worried how they're going to come out in this game. I am. I just think now all of a sudden you've got to rev up the engines again. You're playing a team that, hey, takes care of the basketball, gets good shots, gets up and down the floor. I'm not going to be surprised if there's an adjustment period here. See, I am taking Indiana for the first half for him, but I think they'll cover the 9.5. I don't know if they're going to win the game, but I think they're going to cover the 9.5. House, can we get you on board?
It's amazing. We're heads up, and we're heads up because we just see the same coin slightly different. So I think that Oklahoma City is going to come out and roll. And one of my favorite bets is Oklahoma City minus 5.5 in the first half. They've been incredible at home in the first half over the course of these playoffs. And I think that they are going to show up with a level of pressure, defensive intensity that the Pacers haven't seen. I'm not worried about Oklahoma City onboarding, dealing with, assimilating, responding to the Pacers' pace. My issue is with the Pacers' ability to respond to the level of force, the level of aggression, the defensive intensity, the getting inside the shirts that they haven't seen, because there isn't anybody in the Eastern Conference that can get inside of the Pacers' shirts the way that this Oklahoma City team can and will. And I expect to see so much Lou Dort, and I'll go ahead and forecast a little bit of my action here. I think Lou Dort inside of Mr. Halliburton, you can look at the advanced numbers, those matchups. Mr. Dort has a lot of success against Mr. Halliburton, and so I am all over Halliburton unders in this game one. We'll get to it when we get to best bets, but go ahead and put it in the bank right now. Halliburton under 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists is minus 114 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That is a multi-unit bet for House.
Ooh, I like it. I like you coming frisky. Raheem, anything for game one from a prop standpoint stand out?
Yeah, we're going to go with SGA over 5.5 rebounds. This is a guy who's averaging almost 6 rebounds a game. And I think the pace of this lends itself to, more possessions. But also, if you look at the fact that, I think both of these teams could find themselves going small. So if they go small, I think if you put yourself in a position to where SGA is going to be getting a lot of those rebounds. So I really like that one.
So what I'm looking at is the double-double price for Chet Holmgren, because to me, Chet Holmgren can have a whole lot of success banging the glass and taking advantage of Indiana from a physicality standpoint. I thought he kind of asserted himself throughout this postseason. Seeing him to go and get a double-double on the FanDuel site at plus 115, that's what I'm thinking about. Another guy to keep an eye on here, fellas. Mr. Hartenstein. Remember, played 7 games against the Indiana Pacers last year. The problem is, Raheem, to your point, how much are we going to see the two bigs playing in this particular series together? Like, House, I'm so tempted. I see like 15 points for Hartenstein at plus 700. I'm like, wow, he had some great games against the Pacers. They're going to be in and out with those two bigs. You're not going to see a lot of double bigs, I would assume.
Yeah, I would be on Hartenstein unders. If you do anything with him, it's under, because I think that they need to find, matchup wise, the role for him against this Oklahoma City team. And with the pace that we're imagining, we'll get to the whether or not there's any value on that total now. But if we're imagining a pace, then I don't think that Oklahoma City will use Hartenstein to try and get into that offensive rebound kind of mode, because he won't be able to keep up if Oklahoma City gets out. I mean, if the Pacers push and are able to assert it, there's no role. There's lesser of a role for Hartenstein. Let me put it that way.
Fair enough. Raheem, I'm glad House mentioned a total. Any interest?
No, I don't have any interest right now. I think I'm right on market. I'm right at 231. So I'm staying away from the total, but I probably would lean towards the over. I mean, it's tough. Like, Indiana totals are just always tough to, take an under, especially to start the series. But I'm staying away from it. I'm
kind of in the same mode. All of the guys that I check in with in terms of doing research and stuff, so forth, like the over. But I am worried about a game where Oklahoma City comes out and is able to assert its will. And, a version of the dud that we saw from Minnesota in game one, and the Pacers have a hard time getting much above 100 points. So that puts too much pressure to me at a 230 number on Oklahoma City. Like, if they win 123 to 105, you lose your bet. And I could easily see an outcome like that.
Very tough total. Not going near it. I'll take my 9.5, hold my nose with the Indiana Pacers. I know how good the OKC Thunder have been in that building, and I'm going up against the juggernaut. Tough spot, but I do think the spot favors the Pacers. Now, when we come back, boys, there are all sorts of serious props that you can find on FanDuel. Forget about the MVP, highest scorer, most rebounds, all that sort of crazy stuff. We'll see if the guys have any feelers, anything that maybe stands out to them. We'll do that when we come back. Boys, before we dive into some of these series props, our buddy Mr. Simmons is going to have one of his Taylor fades that you get a little profit boost on. Raheem, SGA, over 1.5 threes. This is pretty split on FanDuel. It's minus 114 at 1.5. He's taking the over. You fading or you tailing?
Over 1.5 made threes. Is there any juice on that?
114 both ways.
We get the profit boost, the 50% profit boost.
Either way.
Pushes it into.
Either way.
I mean,
fading the tailing.
You got SGA taking 5 threes a game, making 1.5. I'm not seeing an edge either way. With the pace, I'm going to go over. I'm going to tell.
Over. House
tails as well. I love it. The idea of SGA at home. He might knock down a couple of threes right at the very beginning of the game just to set a tone.
I'm going to go and fade. I think this seems a little, I'm going to tell you why. It just seems a little too easy, to be perfectly honest. I understand the point. Two made threes. You're like, oh, easy. Home. He's going to be feeling it. He's going to be flowing. You know what? I got to give some dissertation. I got to give some disagreement here. I'm just not in the mood. You know?
Yeah, JJ, I'm not in love with it either. I think they could force SGA to be more of a passer, and I think a lot of his points are going to come from mid-range.
In the mid-range, or
from
at the
going
foul line.
Yeah, going to the line. So I'm not in love with it. I'm just taking it because I'm not seeing an edge either way, and I think there's going to be so many possessions that, maybe he takes a couple threes.
All it takes is 2 made threes. I understand it's not asking a whole lot, but I'm just going to be a little different on this one. Okay, House, as far as the series, FanDuel's got so much you can get involved with. The leading scorer, the leading rebounder, most assists, MVP. I give you the menu of options. Anything stand out?
Yeah, and in fact, the price, when I look at all of the things that have happened series-wise, it is, to me, the most dramatic change since we were together for our podcast on Monday. SGA to lead assists went from plus 390 to plus 230. An enormous decrease in price. I will tell you, after we finished our pod on Monday, I got into that market, and I don't think I single-handedly moved it because I couldn't borrow enough money from Bill Simmons to do that. But I did put in my own sizable play on SGA to lead assists, and the thesis is simple. It's just I think that the Oklahoma City Thunder, as a point of emphasis, are going to get the basketball out of Mr. Halliburton's hands and diminish his opportunities to have assists. I'm going to be playing game by game the unders on his assists, but I adore SGA. It's 8 assists a game for SGA, and I think he wins this. If the series is only 5 games, I think he gets there quite easily. The price is super attractive, and that is one of my favorite series plays, Dream.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this prop is that if you go back to the Denver-Oklahoma City Thunder series, Oklahoma City really made Jokic a scorer more so than a passer. I think he only averaged 5.8 assists in that series. And then if you go back and look at the Clippers series before that, Jokic was, dishing the ball to everybody. So I think they're going to take away that option from Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton's going to have to become a scorer more so than a passer in this series. So I agree with House on this one. I think it's really interesting.
Guys, most total rebounds. It's got to be an Oklahoma City Thunder player. Just Indiana's so undersized. Holmgren's at minus 145. Hortenstein's at 5-1. Then it's Siakam at 550. Jalen Williams is at 8-1. I know you got to lay juice on this. I have no problem laying juice with Chet Holmgren having the most rebounds in this series. That's one I'm going to be all over. Raheem, because of Halliburton maybe becoming more of a shooter and more of a scorer based upon the way OKC wants to play this, you think plus 125 for him to have the most made threes is a good bet? Because you see Neesmith at little under 4-1, Dort's at 5-1, who I think is intriguing. You don't like that, House? Because I feel like he's going to have a ton of open threes.
He misses in bunches. He gets on a miss streak, and he can't find the ocean. And that was the case at the beginning of the playoffs. It settled down a little bit for him, but I don't want to live through another Lou Dort cold streak. I'll let Dream go ahead and weigh in, but my 2 cents is I don't think that's a bad bet. I kind of like that Halliburton threes, especially because I do agree with you guys that he needs to be a scorer.
Any other of these, Raheem?
I think it's worth it taking a shot on someone else other than Chet to get the most rebounds.
Does it got to be an OKC guy, or you would go with an Indiana player?
I mean, maybe a Siakam or even a Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams led the OKC in rebounds in the last series. So, we talked about circling these bigs in and out. I think that's one to look for. But also, I'm looking, this is not for the series, but I think you want to look at playing Chet threes over, game by game mostly, just because I feel like, there's going to be spots. I think he's going to be the X factor. House actually mentioned it before we went on air, but I think he's going to be able to pull, Miles Turner out, and he's going to have to, hit some of those threes. And I think you saw it in the Minnesota series, with him pulling bigs out. I think, there's going to be times where Indiana sells out to make SGA a passer. So I think you can look at Chet Holmgren over threes. I mean, he was 7 for 19 for 3 in the last series. I think he takes a little bit more. So I'll be looking at him, game by game.
2 or more threes, Chet Holmgren in game 1 is plus 128 in the FanDuel Sportsbook right now.
Boys, when we come back, best bets, game 1, NBA Finals, coming at you right after this. It's go time. NBA Finals game 1, but I'm also going to open it up. Best bets if anything stands out for the series. House?
I'll kick it off. Game 1, 2 bets on game 1, and then I'll give a series bet as well. My game 1, I already mentioned Tyrese Halliburton, under 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Point of emphasis of this Oklahoma City defense, Lou Dort. Look at those numbers. Minus 114 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I've got a fun 4-leg parlay because I just want to jump right into the pool. It's the NBA Finals. Let's celebrate this a little bit. I've got Tyrese Halliburton under 8.5 assists. I've got SGA over 6.5 assists. Correlated from my perspective. Oklahoma City Thunder winning this game. That's a money line play. Halliburton under 31.5. I'm leveraging it at plus 393 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And then I really like SGA to lead the series in assists, plus 230 out at the moment on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Jump in there and try and get that cash, JJ.
Let's do it. Dream, what are we looking at?
I got the Indiana Pacers plus 9.5, and I got SGA over 5.5 rebounds. Those are my 2 best bets, in and out like a robbery. Let's get it.
Well, Raheem, we're riding together. I am taking the Indiana Pacers to make this a game in game number 1. I'm going to grab the 9.5 points. I'm going to hold my nose, and I'm going to hope that they don't turn the ball over left and right, left and right. And I have somebody eyed up to go and have a big game 1 who has been rather quiet going back to the last series. Andrew Nembhard. Andrew Nembhard got off to a rocking start in the postseason. He did not have a great series against the Knicks. I'll give him a lot of credit in Game 6. He hounded Jalen Brunson. His defense was a story. Offensively, though, he didn't attack and he didn't perform the way he did against Milwaukee and against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think you're going to get a big Game 1 out of Andrew Nembhard. So here's how I'm playing it. Andrew Nembhard to get 15-plus points. Juicy price here at plus 255. I know Indiana's got a lot of balance. I know they have a lot of different guys who can score. I think you're going to get a big Nembhard game here right out of the gate. So I'll take Nembhard 15-plus, Pacers plus 9.5, and the Indiana Pacers plus 2.5 games. And that one is because I got to be honest. I want to see a lengthy series. I want to see some basketball. That's going to do it for East Coast Bias here on FanDuel TV and, of course, on the Ringer Gambling Show. For Raheem in Vegas, House, D.C., JJ in New York, we out. We'll be back. Special pod Friday. Raheem and I will be breaking down Game 1, getting you ready for Game 2. And then we will be back Monday and on FanDuel TV come Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see you then.